Our next panel will be focused on a global crypto resurgence. Excellent topic. Will there be one? When will it happen? And how would it look like? Moderating this panel will be Lou Kerner, partner of CryptoOracle. And the panelists will be Gracy Chen, managing director of BitGet, Anil Sethi, CEO of Creed and Bear, Gabe Feinberg, head of legal at Sue Foundation, and Andrew Durgee, head of Republic of Crypto. Please welcome the moderator and the panelists. Thank you.
All right, all right, all right. Welcome, everybody. Yep. 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 Uh-huh. Okay. We ready to go here? Terrific. Hi, everyone. I'm Lou Kerner. I'm having the pleasure of moderating this panel here, and the panel is called Preparing for the Global Crypto Resurgence. For me personally, I have a word that I use to describe the tendency of markets to go from bubble to crash to bubble again. I call that capitalism, right? And so I think we're in a kind of a never-ending bubble to crash to bubble again. And so, with the title, why don't we just start with a simple question? If you could all introduce yourselves, and where do you think we are, in that cycle?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Gracy Chen, Managing Director of BitGet. BitGet is a top 5 centralized exchange by trading volume. So if you look at CoinGecko, CoinMarketCap, I actually just checked. Derivative, we are around top 5. Spot market, we are around top 10. And I myself come from a marketing background, and that's exactly what I do at BitGet. So I look after marketing, branding, PR, and global growth of the company. So back to your question.
And where are you based?
I'm based everywhere, but right now I live mainly in New York and Boston. And I'm also doing a part-time degree at MIT. So
Oh,
that's
wow.
an interesting experience. Anyway, so back to your question, I kind of feel that we are towards the end of the tail of this bull market, this bear market. I personally, again, it's no financial advice. It doesn't represent my company either. I personally think we will probably start the next bull market end of next year, mainly due to 2 things. Number one, the decrease of U.S. interest rate, and number 2, the BTC spot ETF approval. I think that's the 2 main events that
Didn't that happen yesterday?
By Cointelegraph, yes. That's a 100 million fake news. That's an interesting event.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks, Gracie.
Hey there, I'm Gabe Feinberg, head of legal over at Sue Foundation. We are a layer 1 blockchain built for speed, efficiency, and throughput. I'm based almost kind of just wherever there's waves and Wi-Fi, so I'm pretty global. In terms of where we are in the market, this might be a,
And I'm sorry, Sui came out of Facebook, DM.
Sui was spun out of Libra or DM. So there's two, there was two groups of individuals that started. One, Aptos, and the other was in Miston Labs. and they leverage the Move programming language to build what is kind of a new approach to a monolithic layer 1 in terms of not needing, not needing any sort of EVM or layer 2s built on top of it, giving the full capabilities that you'd expect in those particular side chains or layer 2s solely on in the source code of the blockchain. And so, yeah, I work at Sweet Foundation, which is a Cayman Islands entity. We support the growth and proliferation of the network. And, we are certainly taking very close note of the market trend and where we are. I think, unfortunately, we do have a ways to go to crawl out of this bear market. I think we've seen the first of many regulatory actions that have put a dampening on some of the growth we'd otherwise have seen, especially, in places that there's not a comprehensive regulatory framework. And so that, again, makes it very difficult for investors to price capital, to, if you're looking at a weighted average cost of capital, discount rate, how do you really bake in an unknown volatility in that? And so I think that we do have a ways to go, but I'm hopeful that we'll get there soon.
Yep, thanks. Andrew?
Everybody, Andrew Durgee, head of Republic Crypto, president of Republic. Republic is a digital merchant bank with a nose-to-tail integration of capital formation, advisory, tokenization, token sale, infrastructure, and treasury management. We have our hands in nearly everything at this point. And to answer the question on
and I'm sorry, just to back up just for a moment, because actually I had the pleasure of doing a fireside chat with you just a few weeks ago and learned, when did you start mining Bitcoin?
I mined my first block February 8th, 2010.
Which was like 2 months after Satoshi first.
A little over a year. Yeah.
So you've seen a few cycles.
I've seen them all. Yes. Yeah. The only time I ever thought Bitcoin was dead was it crashed from $32 to $2 in like 6 hours back in like 2013, 2012. So
wow.
Everything outside of that feels like light touch, just to put it in perspective. But I mean, to look at the bear and bull market, we're kind of in this weird transitionary period where we're in almost neither, frankly. And I think at this point, there's still a couple black swan events that are going to be happening over the next 12 months that are going to rock the foundation of this industry. But you also have a number of extremely positive things that are going to happen. Things like spot ETF, things like the halvening, these large macro events that then balance those out. So what does that mean? That means you have some black swan events that are going to have a lot of short-term damage, but then you have these other events that have very long
and by black swan events, you mean like events that you don't know what they are, but you know they're coming, or you know what they are?
I mean, I think most people probably know what they are. They just don't want to admit it to themselves. So, yeah, there's a number of those, two in particular, that are particularly bad. That
I mean, are you talking about something like on the scale of FTX?
Oh, yeah, certainly. Yeah, or worse. Yeah.
What do you know?
But coming out of that, and those are good. You want those to get done now. Like, you want to get all that stuff out of the way now so that when the things like spot ETF, halvening, U.S. compliance, in particular the markets bill that's running through Congress right now, when those things come out following that, then you're in a space when you want to be. That's the perfect time because you flushed out all the nonsense, and now you have a true infrastructure and swimming lanes and how to build and operate. And that's all really anyone wants.
Yeah, that's the dream. Anil?
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anil Sethi. I'm a Swiss citizen, having lived here in Dubai since 12 years. I come from traditional finance. I was in private wealth management for more than 20 years. And I've joined Creed & Bear as the CEO 1 year and a half ago. We are a data-driven tech company. We strongly believe in data and the power of data. One of the verticals we are launching now, we are launching a hedge fund trading digital assets. It's a Cayman hedge fund. And coming from the traditional finance, I mean, I was taught always to go on to DCF, multiples, to analyze companies and analyze trends. And what I've seen since I've joined Creed & Bear a year and a half ago is the power and the insights that you have if you analyze data. And just applying tools that we have, AI, machine learnings, different analytics, gives us a major hedge on other competitors.
And so what are those signals telling you we are in the market?
So, I mean, also to come about where are we in the market? I mean, people I always find are a bit negative. Bitcoin year to date is up 70%. It puts things in perspective. I mean, the Nasdaq is up 30%. So Bitcoin on a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 year horizon is the best performing asset class in the market. Why are we so negative when we see that? This trend seems to...
Have you heard about this black swan event that's coming?
Yeah, black swan events are always there, and maybe they're always in the price. Markets are forward-looking, and they anticipate adverse news. So I think there's a lot of positives that we will address later about tokenization, blockchain, the different kind of technologies that if they converge together would have a very strong impact on the whole industry. So yeah, this is in a nutshell. We use data to get real-time insights. One of the vertical is on trading digital assets because it's a less crowded market for hedge funds. I think 30% of the hedge funds in the world today are looking at crypto and are very bullish about crypto.
Well, so I'll have this be then the next question. We'll start there and come back this way.
Okay.
What do you think is, this is, we're all here supposedly because we're investing experts in crypto. What do you think is the most misunderstood or underappreciated thing, kind of the single most thing in your mind that our audience would, not fully appreciate or understand?
So one of the things where I think there's a lot of potential is that if you look in the last 2 years, 90% of the world data has been created just in the last 2 years. If you can apply artificial intelligence to analyze this data, there's a lot of things that there's a strong element of predictability that you can apply. So the convergence between data creation and artificial intelligence, I think, is a major game changer for all industries.
Terrific. Andrew?
One, I don't think AI exists without blockchain. I think AI is a very hot topic right now that everyone wants to talk about. It's the same thing. For me, AI and blockchain are really the same thing, and AI needs a transactional layer and a way to communicate with each other.
And it's probably not going to be MasterCard.
Most likely not MasterCard and not email. So there's that piece of it. And in parallel to that, the other component that needs to be in existence in order for that to work is real-time settlement solutions. And it's something that's still not solved, quite frankly. And so having real-time settlement at an institutional level unlocks an entire new tier of innovation, and that's coming. That's going to happen most likely within the next 6 months. And that, for me, is actually more interesting than the short-term AI play. I think the long-term AI play is huge, but the short-term AI play versus real-time settlement wins.
And when you said it's going to happen in the next 6 months, where do you think it'll happen?
I mean, it's happening in the U.S. right now. There's gonna be a
I didn't know that anything was happening in the U.S. right now. That was good.
When Signet and Sen fell over, when Signature Bank and Silvergate Bank fell over, they had 2 instantaneous settlement solutions that also died, and they sit with the FDIC. FDIC won't sell them, and so now that that's the case, there's innovation that's coming out that's going to replace those solutions. And just to give you guys an understanding of how powerful that is, Signet did $1.3 trillion of transactions over 4 years, and a very antiquated, broken, barely working system was doing $1 billion a day, right? At this much of market. And real-time instantaneous settlement doesn't really have anything to do with speculative assets. You could be selling, a Turkish rug salesman could be selling rugs to a Chinese antiquities dealer. It doesn't matter. It's just the ability for that transaction to happen on an instantaneous level, so that you don't have risk on either side. That is going to be one of the bigger plays that we'll see here.
Just a bit off that, SWI is actually probably one of the only layer ones that has the ability to have instant finality and settlement, and also not have a surge in overall gas fees in terms of the growth in the volume transaction. So I think we should.
But it's still an instant. There's still a lot of arbitration risk on it. So inevitably, you need to run instantaneous settlement solutions on something that's much more of a bear asset that also has bankrupt remotency. So most likely, that's built on treasury bills in some capacity.
I see what you're saying.
So like, while from a technology perspective, SWI is actually very great at settlement and can, from a blockchain level, you actually have to go a tier above that because you have to create an infrastructure layer of assets that are bear assets.
A very good point. I think one of the biggest misunderstandings in just cryptocurrency in general is, the token is, while it's an instrument that can have value, it's a native token to an underlying decentralized network. And so, for example, when I was explaining to my parents what I do, I mean, they stopped me on the second or third sentence and basically said, we've had enough. But the whole idea of a decentralized network is to create a economy that has a lot less barriers to entry than the traditional financial economy. And we do that through leveraging decentralized technology and Byzantine consensus. And the token's role, while it obviously can be used and traded and have value from a monetary perspective, the ability for a decentralized network to leverage that native gas token to allow innovation in the creation of sub-economies on a network is something that I think is largely misunderstood by the greater population. And it's kind of our role to leverage our resources and human capital to educate folks in parts of the world that they don't really understand the true potential of what a decentralized network is capable of doing.
Well, when you asked that question, the first thing come to my mind was women. Because actually, if you look at the crowd, you look at the stage, there is just too little female representative. But joke aside, back to your question, I felt if we're talking about investment, one thing that I kind of feel is undervalued is some simple methodologies, such as dollar cost averaging.
I'm sorry.
Dollar cost averaging. So let me explain dollar cost averaging. I guess you guys know, but
So
for our audience
you're
benefit.
talking portfolio science.
Or just, we can't time the market, basically. So especially in this bear market, some very simple methodology like this makes a lot of sense. Well, if you look at Bitcoin price, just like what Andrew and Anil was sharing, they have been here like many cycles. And if you believe in the future that the bull market will come one day or another, end of next year, start of 2025, earlier, doesn't matter, right? Right now it's still very low price, and simple method like that, sometimes people just forget about it or don't really execute on it.
No, I'm a big believer in dollar cost averaging. I buy Bitcoin every single day.
Okay, you do that much more. You have much more money.
Yeah. Well, no, there's a great app.
Yeah, maybe every month or every few weeks.
I mean, there are apps that just you can connect to your bank account and ask how much Bitcoin do you want to buy, how often. So, I know what your answer is going to be this, but if we have again investors in the audience, what is a good strategy? How do they, if somebody comes to you, okay, I really get this thing, I want to invest. What should I do?
You mean when we're talking about
broadly across the crypto landscape?
Primary market or secondary market?
Individual investors, let's say, who come and say, gosh, I really love this blockchain, crypto, Web3 thing. What should I do?
Maybe dollar cost Ethereum.
Okay. Hard to argue with that.
Sorry?
I said hard to argue with that. I'm a fan. Think they got the best community in crypto.
Yeah.
All right, well, could you repeat the question?
The question is, if people come up to you and say, hey, this crypto thing, I get it, it's the future, how should I invest?
I would say find a project that you truly believe in terms of looking at key metrics, TVL transactions, and monthly average wallet or monthly average users. It's quite a difficult prospect, but what I think investors would want to see in anything is assuredness that the total network token supply is not going to have the ability to increase somehow through a vote of a centralized group of individuals.
Like the U.S. dollar.
That's right. That's right. So I would say, pick deflationary protocol. Obviously, this is not investing or legal advice, but, pick protocols that have, deflationary mechanisms and then have, those super growth trajectories.
Such as Sui.
No comment.
Was that investment advice?
Salary? No, of course.
I mean, the disclaimer should just start rolling down
Yes,
the screen
exactly.
at this
I know.
point. Cue the disclaimer, please.
Guys are getting me in trouble.
Yeah. Where's your bar? Where'd you pass? Yeah, not financial advice. Clearly, step one: read the Bitcoin white paper. It's 2 pages. Most people, believe it or not, have not read it. Even those in the industry, which is so silly to me.
And it's timeless, right?
It's timeless.
It's
It's forever. Literally forever. It's on most people's computers now. They've snuck it in a bunch of places. So read the Bitcoin white paper, step one. Step two, read about staking and what staking yields are. And there's enough content on there that's consumable that I would encourage you to look at. And then step three, start with a 70-30 split on Bitcoin and Ethereum and work your way from there.
I like that market. Essentially, just market waiting. Just real quick, because I think it's what is liquid staking?
So what's super unique about blockchain assets, not all of them, but most of them, is you have the ability to earn yield from these by committing these assets into a pool to help validate transactions. What does that mean? Well, to run most of these networks, and we're actually big Sui validators, so shout out to these boys over here. They need these assets in a pool to help validate these transactions, right? To help confirm these transactions, to assure the transactions are not fraudulent, right? And it requires a community of people to do that, and technology and hardware. Now, everyone has the ability to participate in it. This is one of the best democratized components of finance as it relates to this. There's no barrier, nearly no barrier to entry. ETH has a bit of a barrier to entry, but most other things don't have a barrier to entry. And it allows you to earn 5, 6, 8, 10, 12% yield on those assets just for committing those assets for a period of time, meaning that you won't move them, basically. They will be locked into a position. And then you are compensated for that, right? And if you look at traditional finance, that's not something that you normally see, right? And even in the best of days on interest rates like we see now, you're still not pushing up near that 10 to 12%. So as a retail investor who's not participating in more of the accredited facilities, it's a great way to earn a passive income.
Okay, thank you for that. Anil?
So on the dollar cost averaging, I think nobody can disagree with that. I think the big asset allocators like the private bank or the institutional are starting to recommend 1 to 5% allocation to digital assets. So some of them will just buy a spot ETF, and some will also look for actively managed solutions where we will mitigate the risk return, get a better risk return for the clients, because some of the institutional asset managements cannot take the volatility that we had in 2022. So through long-short strategies, we can reduce that kind of volatility. So that's from a portfolio context, I think. But then I think there's a lot of exciting projects, mainly into real-world asset tokenization, where people will look at different ways to get access to assets through these digital assets. I think roughly 1.5 billion people don't have access to banking or financial instruments today. This could be an option to be a bit more inclusive and bring people to capital growth.
Yeah, obviously inclusivity I think is important for the industry. I'll come back to, you talked about the shortage of women in crypto, and I've spent about 6% of my time traveling around. I've been to 32 Crypto Monday cities, a meetup I started, and in 31 cities there were 5 to 10% women, and in Saigon, which I've been to twice, it's like 50% women. It's the most penetrated country in the world. And seeing that made me so positive on that ecosystem. But yeah,
Saigon, that's in Vietnam,
Yes.
right?
Ho Chi Minh.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry,
okay,
yeah.
'cause,
It's 2023.
but if you go there, everybody I meet says Saigon. I don't.
exactly. So
I'm not-
just
yeah.
confused. But anyway, and by the way, I think I also read somewhere that in Vietnam there's like nearly 17 or 20% of their population holds crypto.
Yeah.
So that's something quite interesting, and we do have a huge user base in Southeast Asia.
And what do you think about when you think about getting more women involved?
First of all, I feel as women ourselves, we should. I saw a few ladies here and shout to you that we need more representation in the room. Basically, we need to be more in, like being a leader, and if you want to balance work life, everything, family, especially if you have a mother, things can be very hard. But don't be afraid and lean in. Another thing, actually, what we do, and what I personally feel very passionate about is also doing some CSR activities around, like we have this initiative called Blockchain for Her, and also Blockchain for Youth. So it's like educational program targeting the younger generation as well as women to kind of onboard more of them joining the space. Yeah, but again, I wouldn't say we are so very different. Gender-wise, yes, we're different. But in the professional world, nobody cares whether you are men or women. It's result-driven, right? We look at the result, whether you can lead the team, whether you can achieve what you're supposed to achieve. That's what we want to do. And by the way, I saw Eve here. She is a very technical coder, and we were judges at this crypto reality show called Killer Whales. There were like 14 or 13 of us, but only 3 women. 2 of us, then including another crypto influencer. So only 3 women out of 13. That's a good representation already. But we definitely want more ladies to join the space. But no offense to the guys, we're not a competitor, right? we work together. I believe you all have some sort of like women partner in your team as well.
My team's 40% women and they're rock stars.
Great. Let's all do that. Aim for that.
Yeah, I'll continue. I know you're not based in Silicon Valley, but the company is based in Silicon Valley.
Well, the foundation is actually a Cayman entity. So the DevCo and Miston Labs is, yes, that's a U.S. entity. And they are, a ecosystem participant and contributor that, is highly valued. But we're very distinct entities in the way we operate. And sorry, but what's the question? Can you?
Oh no, and I know you're not the expert, but I was going to ask you about the kind of Silicon Valley, and now have you spent much time here in Dubai?
This is a first trip for me to Dubai, and so far, there's a lot of things we're seeing that we like out here. One being the comprehensive regulatory framework in VARA, and the ability to kind of have some certainty over what compliance looks like and what it doesn't. Silicon Valley, obviously is a U.S. city, and there are countries and jurisdictions that have some catching up to do in terms of putting out something that would give anyone who wants to build in the space assurance that there is a path to compliance. It's a very difficult prospect of balancing consumer protection and not stifling innovation. And I think.
But if you have to be out of balance on that, right? Because I don't think you can ever get balance perfectly right. Where do you think we should be out of balance, and where do you think we are mostly?
I think what the goal of most of these new regulations are certainly leaning towards consumer protection, and I think for good reason, right? There's been.
Well, because they want votes, that's the reason.
That's part of it. But look, there's been so many rug pulls and headline grabbing fraud that has, and it continues to occur in this industry. And so just like it's not unique to the crypto industry whatsoever. However, I think this is what needs to be done, unfortunately, to reinstill confidence in this industry overall, because every time this happens, it's a blemish on what
Sure,
the
it's not
legitimate
positive,
actors.
but I mean, people still invested in the stock market after Bernie Madoff, right? And and this, and he was a fraud for 30 years. I think personally that it's more used as a reason that they can maintain the power the way that it is. And I just want to say, Andrew, you go all over the world. Dubai, obviously has an accommodating system. Where else do you think is getting it right?
Actually, Vietnam is a really interesting target. They have relatively green fields, so like they're building their frameworks now, which actually Republic's involved in. I'm pretty excited about what that looks like. We're also very, very bullish on Korea. It's another market that we really, really like. Hong Kong has started to reactivate, so we're keeping a watch on that also. But Dubai has something really unique. One of the largest intellectual capital flights that we've ever seen has taken place here. And I'll give you a real life example. We had a 50-person development office in Moscow. When the Moscow-Ukrainian war broke out, we couldn't pay them. So we moved that entire 50-person team here to Dubai. It was one of the few landing places that we could move that Russian team. We are not the only company that did that, right? And there are companies that moved a lot more engineers than we did. So you have what we would consider probably the largest migration of intellectual capital basically since World War II that's taken place, and it's all now here. And if Dubai has the ability to capture and maintain all of that talent, the long-term ramifications of that being here is very hard to measure. It's going to be significant. And so, relatively graceful regulatory frameworks mixed with a huge injection of incredible engineering talent is a really unique combination for something special.
Yeah, and it's strange personally, how very few people in the world that I've met have any appreciation of what's going on here. And that's why getting people to come here, I think, is the best thing that you can do. What are you seeing around the world? And I know you're deep in the Switzerland ecosystem, which is certainly, technologically ahead of most.
Yeah, so as you were saying, innovation and regulation always goes hand in hand. And sometimes there's a push on the innovation side, sometimes there's more a push on the regulation. In my career, I've worked on both. I've worked in compliance and I've worked in business development. Nobody likes compliance, ever. But if you don't get it right, all your innovation doesn't work. So maybe now today we are seeing in the US, I know you guys coming from the US, maybe the regulation framework is not completely clear. But for me, it doesn't really matter that much because you cannot fight technologically progress. It always happens. And I'll just take an old example because I come from the capital market. In the US in the 60s, they became very stringent on bond issuance. And then in a couple of years, the Euro bond market was created in London. And 15 years later, it was the biggest bond market in the world. So whatever happens in a jurisdiction, another one will come up and will find ways of creating a good level playing field and a good framework. Coming from Switzerland, I'm slightly biased, but I think Switzerland has done a great work of putting a legal framework in place that makes it very clear. You can understand what is your tokenized assets. You can understand what's your digital assets. You know which courts to go to. The legislature, the business guys have all worked hand in hand, and they've done something very good.
Yeah, it's very impressive what they have here. So with our last few minutes, we'll start. I'll give you the last word. It's an investor panel. Let's make a prediction. Everybody gets a prediction. You can make a price prediction about something, but some prediction. And next year, we'll see how you did, maybe.
I don't necessarily want to do a price prediction, but it's more like an adoption rate. I think
Okay.
the adoption rate will go up. I think the numbers today are around 4% globally, 400 million people. This is a numbers game, so if we have an increase in adoption rate, it will be very supportive for the whole system.
Yeah, I'm going to stay away probably from the pricing component, but I would say that the prediction I'm most comfortable with is that the next unlock of institutional capital will happen in Q4 next year. And that's something to keep an eye on.
And what do you think will unlock it?
A mixture of things. Bitcoin spot ETF is definitely going to be on that list. And even if it were to happen today or yesterday, like people assumed it was, it still takes a while to ramp that up. And the mixture of the halvening with that ETF creates a really unique macro environment. And this is probably the first time where the halvening is actually a true global macro environment. And that I think that's particularly special.
You know, I was an equity analyst on Wall Street, not a a chartist, but I'm starting to believe in the halvening.
Yeah, but it won't happen right at the halvening. It's important to note. Like if you look at any previous halvening, the results of that don't happen for a number of months later. The halvening is going to happen probably in the early-ish summer of next year. So early Q4.
March, April.
It keeps moving up, actually.
Yeah.
Interesting, because it was going to be what was July, then June. Now it's April.
Yeah.
So I don't know how at that pace. I don't know that it's constricting now, so I don't know that it can pace up that much more. But yeah, it's going to be some point.
Gabe?
I think as long as places like Dubai and other jurisdictions start adopting more and more, again, clear regulations and guidelines of how to operate a company in the Web3 space, they're going to continue to engage in regulatory arbitrage where they are basically pulling market share and top talent, as Andrew noted, into places like this because, again, it just gives assuredness to both developers, investors, and everyone involved in the ecosystem. And so, kudos to Dubai for kind of leading the charge in that, and hopefully, other countries out there catch up soon.
Kudos. Okay, Gracie, you've got the last word.
Well, Lou, you asked about price, but none of them talk about price at all. Okay, I'm going to just be your guest and talk about price then. But again, no financial advice. Where's my disclaimer? I personally think Bitcoin, we're probably looking at something near 100K. Not ending of next year, but more like the top of the next bull market. And then in terms of Ethereum, according to the price right now, maybe another like 5 times. That's my personal hope. Yeah,
Okay.
I wouldn't say prediction. It's more like hope, and it's a mid-range, not like optimistic nor conservative hope. Yeah.
Fingers crossed you're right. Let's give him a big hand.
Thank you.
Ah.